Hello traders, and welcome to this debrief on the balance trader. I haven't done an introduction, so I'm just going to quickly say that who I am, what I am, and why am I doing this. I'm a trader of 20 years professionally, and I have now joined the ranks of a home day trader. What I'm trying to do here is to illustrate what it takes to be a professional trader, or at least to be successful at it, and what it takes. I will be holding live trading sessions. I will be debriefing and prepping. I won't be doing any preps live, but I will have occasions where I will be sharing my debriefs with you. And this is exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm gonna run through a debrief today, just explaining about the trading that the trading opportunities that I saw and how I viewed the market yesterday. I try to make objective observations based on market generated information, MGI, which I will talk about a lot going forward. I don't want to be subjective in the way that I convey my opinions. Because they're just opinions, they don't matter. What we want to look for is for hard evidence, information that the market gives us, that we can better plan and trade our day. So let's just go straight into it and start looking at the debrief that I had from yesterday, the 17th of May. I wasn't actually trading it in the afternoon session. I was a bit busy and I had a very rushed prep for the day, so it's not my best work. But this is the kind of stuff that I do every day. Without fail, if I don't prep, I don't plan. I don't trade. No trading without plan. I really believe in the mantra. If you plan to fail, fail to plan to fail. So let's just go straight into it right now. This is my plan from yesterday in debrief, and a trade that I took yesterday, but I just want to quickly go through all of it with you now. So here we go. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to have to look at my screen and not looking or talking to you directly whilst I'm doing this. It just helps me to keep the narrative on track, and I don't lose my train of thought. I'll try and keep things as concise as possible going forward. These debriefs shouldn't take longer than 5-10 minutes. I've done all the hard work. So here we are. This is yesterday's plan going into the day. Like I said, I didn't really trade too much. I was a bit busy in the afternoon, but I still planned regardless, and I try to do that whether I'm on holiday or I try to keep tab of things, because one of the hardest things is when you've spent some time away from the screens, just losing track of what's driving the market, how it's moving, your price action for the day, and just keeping the tabs of who's in control, buyers and sellers. We're trying to stay as in tune with the market as possible at all times. So this is my plan from yesterday. I tend to draw a couple of squiggles which help me to sort of visualize what I do, what I want to do, what I'm expecting, what I'm looking for. There's always one or two scenarios that I'm looking for specifically, and I will trade certain scenarios specifically. Most importantly, not only are my scenarios quite specific, but the areas that I will get involved in tend to be quite specific. Sometimes I will adjust the plan on the fly, but there is a very small variation margin that I allow myself to do that. Basically, I should be able to understand what's going on in the market, be in tune with the market, and if I'm not, then there's something not aligned. I'm not aligned with the market, so I'm out of balance, so to speak. So I need to walk away and realize why that is, and the quicker I can do that, the better. So if my scenarios aren't in play, then I tend to not trade, or look to just trade more of a scalping, because I will tend to scalp. So these are just some tips. So quickly running through my day's plan. What I also do is just write a little bit of a scenario, what's been played out, a little debrief from the prior days. But my plan was yesterday was for opening out of range, and we were opening well out of range, well above this prior balance area. And basically we were to test the upper distribution of the overnight's range. So basically overnight we had a very strong trend higher, indicating some sort of change because we'd broken above the prior balance. The previous 2 days highs were 42, 43, somewhere around there, indicated by, well, we've got this high here at 36. We've got this high at, I believe it's 42. And then this one's at 43.5. So we had a break in the overnight session. This is an overnight market profile, and you can very clearly see that there's one small distribution at the bottom, two distributions, a little hold in the middle, and then another distribution at the top. So I tend to treat each break and node distribution as separate entities. I will trade them as separate entities, and I will look for opportunities as separate in each one based on the information generated in that little individual node on the smaller time frame. But I'm always looking for higher time frames, and on the right hand side you can see this grayed out area. This is a composite profile, which is basically an amalgamation of all the prior profiles, and yeah, I will base my targets on these composites. So quickly running through my plan, the open auction, open out of range. The idea was to test these singles that were left behind at 42, 43 around there, and 32, then to bounce and take out the overnight highs. That was my that was my second plan. Sorry, my first plan was that it would come down here, bounce, weak bounce, and then we would dribble back lower. Basically, because we've had such strong selling, I had a slight bias, given that we were only just breaking out from our one time framing dailies. We just held for the last couple of days. The weekly one time frame had ended above 69 because that was the prior week's high. But I was thinking that, if these buys couldn't hold initially on the open of the real-time session, I would have expected, some of these longs from the overnight to liquidate. And if we couldn't get above the 69 prior week's highs, then we would probably liquidate lower. And my targets were this really big high volume node, which I've circled here on the composite profile. Anyway, as it was, we went with plan 2, which was an open test of the 42-32 area, which was the singles, which we just mentioned. Buys become responsive, and we take out the overnight high. That's exactly what happened, pretty much. But it was not as easy as it sounds. It's not as easy as just picking a level, buying it, and there was. You'd have done very well, by the way, had you bought in this 32 area. But if you're trying to hold for a break of the highs, things to consider are things like events that might affect repricing and sentiment. And we were actually waiting for Jerome Powell to come and talk to us at 7 o'clock GMT time, which is 1 o'clock Chicago time, 1 p.m. Chicago time. So the market was kind of almost in a wait and see mode, which you'll often see when we're expecting some, either some Fed speakers or some big events, big data events. So I was aware of this going into the day, that it was probably likely to be choppy, probably likely to be the price action was probably quite difficult, given the fact that we were basically in between these two larger nodes. This is a weekly profile now. So I'm just looking at the weekly profile now. I was expecting chop between this, prior week's distribution and this weekly VPOC that was created on that's the prior week's distribution. This is 2 weeks ago. So I expected some kind of chop around here. You can see the monthly VPOC at 41.50. That's something to carry forward. I look at the weekly and monthly profiles. I think you can get some clarity, because it's very hard to take ideas just from a short time frame. I'm I base my targets on the high time frames, and I will outline those high time frame targets in my plans. So this is just the weekly. I also did this is the weekly profiles. This is the monthly, which kind of shows a similar thing. But then I've also got some much bigger targets in case we start breaking out. If there's any kind of news, I'm aware of where we might be going, where we might find support, where we might find sellers, support, resistance. I'm always planned for the entirety of the day, the week, the month. So I think that people should be too. Looking at short-term 5-minute, 10-minute, even 30-minute candles isn't quite good enough for me. And most people I know take the same approach. So this was my plan. We've just gone through that quickly. So let's just see how the day unfolded in relation to that. So we're going to focus on plan 2, open test of 4232 area, buyers become responsive, and we take out the overnight highs. So just going into the debrief now. I'm going to skip this chart here because this is a bit more of an overview. I'm going to go straight to the candles where we can see things a little bit more clearly. This is a 15-minute debrief. I've included the overnight session, which I don't tend to do but the reason I've done it this time is just because we've had such a big extension breakout of the weekly prior week's highs. So we've generated some important information there that I want to try and carry forward into my thinking into the session. There might be some important references. So this is why I'm illustrating the overnight references, and I've just kind of outlined it here. So this is the overnight session roughly, but the key areas that I've been looking at were, these prior highs from the two previous real-time sessions, where I've denoted by a 1. You can see here we had a little question mark whether or not we're going to go higher, but it soon broke above it. This resistance area that we'd had for the last 2 days. So something was changing. Sentiment was changing at the time. Also, we had a very strong rally in the European session. In the European equities during the European session, and so I've carried forward all the information from the overnight references, and basically what happened was, we're expecting this test down to where these ones are, where we left some singles in the overnight session. Singles just means that we've got some, very strong activity where price leaves an area of balance, and it moves away. Strong, sort of almost impulsive behavior by the market, and it doesn't tend to retrace or pull back or cover those prices for a rather long time. It just shows some strong impetus by the market. Sometimes you see these moves very quickly retrace. Sometimes they're just stops. There's very high likelihood of stops being above a 2-day high. So that's basically what you could initially think on that. So I wasn't too interested in taking this trade in the overnight session, the long at 40s, 42s, 43s, to trade above the prior day's highs. I just felt that given the fact that we had such a strong we're still one time frame lower on the weekly, on the monthly, we stopped the one time framing lower with the last, since Friday, Thursday. We've broken above, Thursday's highs. But I still felt that the sellers were still here, and you could see that in the price action that buyers aren't getting it their own way. They're not they're not running away with things. You're seeing very choppy two-way action, which you can see here. Look, we're going up, down. The rotations are quite large, but look here we've got some sellers, but there's just no buying whatsoever. It's just a liquidation all the way back down to the prior range lows area. Then we see a pickup, but we're seeing this two-way action. So I was aware that there's still sellers in this market. This is not a one-way street, which has been typical actually for the price action for the last couple of weeks. Even this move down low, we've still seen, buy the dip guys still coming in and trying to take advantage of lower prices. But overall, I just didn't think it was a safe bet, and I wasn't too in tune with the market. I was zoned out, so to speak. But once I saw this, it was very clear to me that this was a continuation. This huge step up here on the 15-minute. You got 45 minutes of just pure buying until we start hitting some selling here up here. We created an overnight high, which I referenced going forward, looking for it to break. It's a very important level here. very important levels just above here, just above 100, 120, that you can see from my monthly profiles, and also the weeklies. Sorry, that's just my news service that I have running at all times. I've got a few of them. I think if you're day trading and you're not aware of news that's hitting the markets, I think that's a disadvantage. I think I don't trade news very often. I tend to only trade when there's some new significant information that needs repricing in the market, but most of the time it's just there as an awareness tool. So I will stop talking when I hear them talking. Anyway, so we got this breakout and we were moving into the real-time session, which starts roughly where this 2 is here. And what we saw was this very almost lethargic open where, I think participants were, are we staying up here or not staying up here? But once we start breaking below this swing low on the opening swing low, which is the first 5 minutes of, 5-10 minutes of the opening range, you could see that, the longs in the overnight session started having doubts. The overnight inventory was overly long, and there'd be some adjustment down there. And where do you expect the adjustment to go down to? Well, you're looking for reference points. You want to see where buyers might step in again and take advantage of, better prices. I don't trade price. I mentioned it a little bit here and there. Price is an advertising mechanism to attract buyers and sellers at different prices. I'm a value trader, so I'm looking at where value is at all times. So I was aware where value was yesterday. I'm aware that value has been shifting higher throughout the week or the last 3 days. So I'm a value trader, not price, but I will mention price occasionally as it is an advertising mechanism. So we saw this breakdown lower from the open, and it wasn't very easy. It was hard to gauge what was right. You've got like this, a couple of 15-minute, even though we're moving low, we've still got some breaks of previous candles. It wasn't one-way traffic. Anyway, we had a run down. We formed the IB low just above the 42s area, which you can't see on the 15-minute chart. And then we had this, break lower into down to the 32s, which is where we were expecting. We went a couple of ticks below it, down to 29 3/4, and then we found some buyers again, which is kind of the area that I was, that I planned for. So this would have been a good long for me, and I would have probably taken this short here had I been slightly more concentrated into what I was doing. But anyway. Buys step up again at 32. We push it all the way up high into Jerome Powell at 1 o'clock Central Time US, which is 7 o'clock UK time. And then we had this Powell flush where basically he started talking and was explaining how he was he was adamant that, we were going to get inflation under control and we're going to have to move rates until that happened. So he was sounding quite hawkish, whereas I think participants were maybe thinking he might tone things down given the fact that we're seeing slowdowns in the economy, especially in Europe. There's a little of uncertainty regarding what's been happening. We've got higher oil prices, whether or not this is going to start feeding into demand issues. Anyway, so he didn't sound any of that. He just sounded like he was hell-bent on getting inflation under control, which I think is the right thing to do because we've got to take some short-term pain to relieve this issue. Otherwise, we're just going to end up with a spiral like we did in the 80s and 90s. Anyway, so we had this flush lower on Powell, which was, really, really, really emotional. The market dropped 1% in the space of 15 minutes, and then you saw this very sharp V reversal, which this is really hard to trade because once we get down below these prior areas, this little holding taper, you're thinking to yourself, well, do you know what? Where's this going to stop? So you need to start looking at reference points, and the reference point in this case was these prior highs where the number ones are, so they were quite important. Prior days highs, and once you see those hold. And you've got to understand how price action works here. it's going to be, relatively easier to sort of start looking for structure to take positions up. Now, I wasn't looking at this, so I can't comment on it, and I won't do so today. But yeah, once you see that, that 43, 42 area hold with the Jerome, after the Jerome Powell flush, buyers were back into control into the close, squeezing all the longs out, and we basically start one time framing higher on the 15-minute chart, and you can see that the price action, it was just really clean. There was just no pullbacks. Basically, after we failed at 44, all the shorts basically realize that this isn't going to go any lower, and they want to get out of their positions. Other key levels that we really sort of need to be aware of, and I'm always aware of, are the prior weekly highs, which is around 69.70, and the prior week settlements. These are like, these two areas where I'm always looking at the prior week's highs, prior week's lows, prior week's settlements. These are really key references for me, and I think for larger time frame traders as well, it's really important. So some things to note is that we had quite a lot of volume in the overnight session. So I was more inclined to trade the overnight session. I did take one trade, which I'll quickly go through why I took it. I try not to trade too much in the real-time session, but when I see this, really high volume, I will be looking to take trades because I'm just a bit more sure-footed about the way that the price action and direction of the market is, especially when we've broken out of things like, a couple of days balance, significant reference points like we're breaking above the weekly prior week's highs, all that kind of stuff. So these are all important references that sort of make me switch on, going, okay, these aren't small time guys, these are big time guys. I want to be taking advantage of what they're doing, and I want to try and following them. So yeah. Another thing to note, just also on these, this daily chart, sorry, in this candlestick chart, is just the way that the market delta just drops. Cumulative delta just drops from the open. That should give you a little bit of confidence in taking shorts during the first open. Okay, I've already spoken quite a lot. But I'm just going to quickly go through the profiling. So here we go. Here's a little intro for you guys. Okay, and I'm back. And it's still here. All right, no, that's my profile. This is my analysis of market profile and how I view things going forward into today's session. And yeah, you're welcome to read through this. I tend to highlight things in different colors. They match my t-shirt today. Great. But yeah, it's pretty much the same stuff that I've noted from before, but some of the things to just, be aware of and note. Sorry. Okay, so we want to keep an eye out for that Jerome Powell swing low down at the prior daily highs. This line here, where I've written support area, but support area above the prior balance, and we want to try and carry forward, this poor low here that was generated the previous day. That's a possible area where we might have some stops, and a flush down to this area here where I've denoted 1, which is last Thursday's high and Friday's low. Now, this area is important to me because it indicates that, look, on the Friday, we basically saw this, open test of the prior day's highs, and then very strong, quick rejection, which I traded up higher. So any kind of advertising of price below that, any pricing, we might see all these longs from the prior 2 or 3 days sort of really start to panic, and we start looking to take out these Thursday lows, which are also the yearly lows. So I try to carry forward information which I denote with numbers, and important information is that we have been one time framing higher. We have now stopped one time framing lower on the weekly. We're still one time framing lower on the monthly because we've got those Thursday lows that created that low. Those lows. So what other information can we carry forward into today's trading session? Well, I'm looking at these high volume nodes on the composites. I'm looking at the VPOC, the close. These are all areas that I will just, systematically always carry over as information into the next session. But importantly, I've just outlined where I think that we should find some buying support, which is basically, I really want to see prices hold above this area here, the 40, 42 area. This was the Jerome Powell swing low. We've got a nice little, excess tail here, where we've got number 5 down to number 3. Now, if I start seeing prices encroach and break into that little excess tail, that's information that I need to carry into my thinking, because it's indicating that the buys that were strong yesterday, we've got this nice little tapering here. So, we've got the tail, and then you can see like this little stepped approach higher, where buyers are becoming increasingly competitive, and they're taking advantage of lower prices, but they're becoming more and more competitive as they do so, and we've pushed up higher. At the same time, we've got these relatively poor highs, which I actually haven't marked out here, which is silly of me, but we've got these relatively poor highs from yesterday's session as well. But again, we did see some selling. We've got this again. We've got this tapered profile. We've got this break from one side of the IB high, IB low. Looks like a nice little normal distribution, except for this little tail. But overall, this is the kind of information I want to try and take forward, and I've taken some notes here where I expect targets to be going forward. These are the levels that I'm looking at. I might have missed one or two, but overall, this is basically what I'm looking at. So yeah, take from that what you will. I'm going to quickly just run through my entire debrief, which includes some of my trades. I won't always go through these with you because sometimes it gets a bit messy, and I will overtrade like you guys. I do make mistakes, but I try to keep a notebook and monitor that behavior. And if I'm out of line, I need to step away, stop. But on those days, I will be doing some psychology, looking into the mindset and how that plays with my trading, and the steps I've taken to remedy those issues, which have been built up over a 20-year career. But I think actually over the last 3 years, things have really moved on in leaps and bounds. Self-help books have been great. Anyway, I'm just going to quickly run through my debrief. Again, feel free to pause this, run through it. These are my notes. This was the trade I took, and I will quickly debrief it as to why. This was an overnight session trade where I was more present at my desk. I tend to be here all the time, but yesterday I was toing and froing. Anyway, so we had this overnight break of the levels, prior days, prior balance area around the 40s, where we got this clean break from this little area here, and we've pushed all the way up higher, and it just looks like it's going to keep going. Some of the things that I saw was just like this very high volume at these highs, indicating there might be some pressure. We initially started off with this choppy volume. Anyway, and then it got a bit heavier into the into the highs. And what I was looking for here was, if this was to be the high, I'm looking for a pullback into an area where I would imagine would be some kind of resistance, which in this case what I will do is the overnight session formed this multi-distribution high, creating these low volume nodes. Low volume nodes meaning areas where there's low volume, and these are all volume profiles. You can see the low volume node here, low volume node here, another little one here, another little one here, another little one here. So I was looking for a push back up into these areas where basically these areas just didn't show very much interest to hold or stay in those areas. So I'm hoping that those areas repeat that, and they don't want to spend too long in those areas. So I'm looking for areas where I can put my positions on and hopefully price moves away quickly. And also, given that train of thought, if I believe that an area, if I believe I'm, entering into a valid area where obviously prices should move away quickly, I know that if that doesn't happen, that then something has changed or something is changing, and I want to be aware, and maybe I need to be more willing to, exit my trade. So I want to see, I want to try and get involved as close as I can to where I think prices will move away quickly, and I want to be able to scale my positions out sometimes. Although I didn't in this case, I ran the whole clip all the way down to the target. I won't go into that now. I will do a session on process and R and the different methodologies I use to trade setups. Anyway, so this was the setup. So I was looking for, this looked like a really big rally in the overnight session. We traded, I don't know, what was it? About 100 ticks, 100 points, and I saw this getting tied up here. So I was looking for a weak pullback, a significant but weak pullback, and that was this area here where I'm going to see some pressure building up, and a nice little flush like that candle there. You can just about see it on the 1 minute chart. That's what I'm looking for. That just shows to me that buyers have run out of steam there. And then I'm looking to hold it to the other side of this balance. Now, when I say balance, this is a distribution. I'm looking at a rough value area high where we see this low volume node here and another little low volume here, which was my target to get out there. But I'm also looking for signs of continuation and try and hold the trade for as long as possible. Always looking to do that. Always looking to hold my trade for as long as possible. And basically what happened was I was looking to get out in this area here, the other side of the distribution. We had this spike lower, but then a reversal. So yeah, I actually got out just along here. So you can see that, the same thought process of this is an area where price should move away quickly. This little low volume node here. When we got to this little low volume node here where my cursor is, we rejected and moved higher pretty quickly into the real-time session, the New York Open, and that was my trade. I hope that makes sense. My top tip is to treat each distribution separately. That's my tip for the day, and if you can take anything from that, great. Another one maybe is just to, when you've got these like elongations, these strong moves away, you're going to leave these little low volume nodes. Just look to trade. Look for opportunities in those areas there, because if they do fill out and they go above or below, then that indicates some kind of change that you need to be aware of. And you don't want to be holding trades if you're against it, but you maybe want to be looking to take trades there at some point in the future. Okay, that is pretty much my debrief for the day. Just to quickly explain what it is I did. I sold 75s, which is this area here, all the way down here. I'm going to quickly show you a footprint, just to show you a little bit about the order flow and what I saw on the tape that made me get in at that specific moment. Because anyone can just say, well, why did you get in here? It looks like it's going back up again. The trend overnight is higher. Why did I get in? Well, I don't know. I'm looking at the evidence. I'm seeing that we had this high here. We had a really deep pullback, and then we had an attempt to move back up. And I was looking at this area here where we've got this other spike and these low volume nodes, And basically price action got me in. I thought I could take the trade with low risk, which is what it's all about. I'm always trying to get into my trades with low risk. And if I can get scale out quickly, I'm basically holding a bet to nothing. And I'll just quickly show you my footprint of what it was that got me in. So basically you can see these like high volume, this is the flush, this is the, almost exhaustion at the highs. You can see it's like a very tapered micro profile here. These are rotational profiles. I find that they help me. We had this, high volume where you've got these like big bubbles of volume, where, we pushed up higher. So around this area here, where I've drawn my line, we saw a flush. And then what we saw was this pullback to that line, broke just above it. But what gives me confidence is the fact that we're just seeing this tapering, this lovely tapering on the micro profile. And this high volume as well. There's the delta. So you're seeing this like very strong, like, right, okay, we flushed lower. This is an opportunity to get long. And then someone says, no, you don't. And they just force all these longs involved. Anyone buying here, anyone holding here, anyone thinking, right, this is going back up again, they're going to have their stops somewhere below here. So that was my thinking. So if I can get in here, because I can see nice price action that favors my trading idea, which was to get involved around the 75s, I'm going to take that trade. And my idea was to look, I was looking at this area here as it was a prior area. We saw like a little 1 minute flush higher and a pullback. So just little clues that I've picked up. So I knew there was, all these longs up here who would be looking to maybe get out if they didn't miss this opportunity. So in at 75, and then I'm just monitoring. I'm looking to see whether it's going to break and hold below this little area here. And look what happens here. Look, we're breaking below and holding. We see a lot of volume push back up, but importantly, we're not really pushing above this. You see this little cave? It works for micro profiles too, guys. So this little cave here, this little node here is offering some kind of resistance. And we're moving lower, moving lower, moving lower. And, I didn't want to hold it into the open, even though I thought there was a good chance for overnight inventory to liquidate down to the 42.32 area. I just wanted to take it safe, and I got out at 57s, which was on this candle here, which was the area that I'd shown you previously, a little low volume node area. I could have taken the reversal trade here, because being an area where I want to get involved in to get out, as it's also an area, the reason I'm getting out is because I don't think it's going to go any further very easily, and I saw this immediate bounce. So it's just the same idea as before kind of thing. But yeah, that's just looking at the footprints. If you don't know anything about footprints, they're a great way to sort of monitor order flow in real time. I think they are invaluable. I will go through an entire session. Guys, and explain to you basically what are the tools that I use and how I use them. And hopefully you can learn from that as well. But I've been using Footprints Market Profile. I've been using Footprints for the last 4 years, and I've used Market Profile since 2011, I think. Yeah, 2011. November 2011, my friend gave me a book and said to me, by Jim Dalton, who is one of my heroes. He basically re-educated my entire trading philosophy to not focus on price and to focus on value, because at the end of the day, that's what's more important, value. And so yeah, market profile, footprint. I will use Renko charts, but that's pretty much it. And my charts, I try to not have any indicators on them. I'm just going to quickly run through things with you in another session, but that's all I've got time for today on this debrief, and I hope you learned something from it. And yeah, I look forward to doing these things and sharing my insight with you going forward. So let's end this now.